Here's a demo of how to achieve high availability with MariaDB and MaxScale that you can try in your computer with Docker. It's very easy. And the cool thing about it is that everything is replicated. So you have multiple MariaDB servers and also you have multiple MaxScale servers. So you can pull the plug on any of those nodes and everything continues to work like if nothing happened really. So let me show you. This is Visual Studio Code, and I have a bunch of files here. I'm going to leave links to the repository in the description of this video. But the main thing is this Docker compose file, which basically declares or defines 3 services, or actually more than 3, but 3 MariaDB servers, MariaDB 1, 2, and 3, and also 3 nodes or containers running MaxScale 1, 2, and 3. Now there's one Nginx node here. This is just for the demo. You don't really need this in production. It's going to be clear later. And I'm not going to go through all the details of the configuration. What you need to take into account is that MariaDB 1 is the current, when you start this, it's going to be the current primary or master server, right? And MariaDB 2 and 3 are going to be replicas. And this is thanks to this variable here, which is MariaDB replication user and MariaDB replication password, and also this one, MariaDB master host. Master is like primary. So they are going to replicate both of them from MariaDB 1, which happens to be this one here. Now there are some configurations. For example, let me show you this. So if we go to MariaDB server primary, you'll find these 2 files, primary.cnf and primary.sql. They are right here. And this is how I configure the primary server. The main thing here is to define a server ID that it's unique for each node and activate the binary log. There are some other things that you might want to check. I'm not going to go through those right now. Also, there is a SQL script that's going to be run as soon as the MariaDB server is up and running. This is for example, creating the replication user with the password and giving the grants that it needs. Same for MaxScale, okay? You find all these in the documentation. Now let's get back to the Docker compose file. Let me show you also the MaxScale service. They're pretty much the same. All the configuration is the same, except that they have different ports. So as you can see, outside the Docker world, let's call it like that, we have MaxScale 1 is using 4001, this is using 4002, and this one is using 4003. The same for the GUI. So this is the port that internally the Docker container users, or rather MaxScale uses inside the Docker container for the GUI, which is a web application. So I'm mapping to 89, 81, 82, and 83. That's so that we can access the GUI from outside. And also, well, like I said, this is each of these ports here, the ones that start with 4, they are the ports that you are going to use in your application. So you will connect to the database through those ports. I'm going to show you also later how to connect to those. Okay, but that's it. Now this Nginx node here is just for the demo. Let's not pay a lot of attention to it. It's just that I can access the MaxScale GUI through a single endpoint. That's it. But you don't need these in production, or you might, or if you do it, actually, you might want to also replicate Nginx and maybe use something so that it load balances, or make sure that you use the node that's up and running, so you don't have any single point of failure. But let's ignore a bit Nginx. Okay, cool. Let's run this. So let's open a terminal here. Docker compose app detach. There we go. It's running. Docker ps. And we have MariaDB 1, 2, and 3, and MaxScale 1, 2, and 3. Everything's up and running. There's also the Nginx thing that I mentioned. Let's, again, not pay a whole lot of attention to that one. I'm going to need an application, right, that uses these databases. So I happen to have one here, which is called, I think this is a Java Backend, online store simulator Java Backend. It's implemented with Spring Boot and RTDBC, but also JDBC. So let's move there. Let me actually show you that. Let's use 2. So it's just a Maven project, right? You can recognize it because of this. And I have compiled it already here. Now, this is Spring Boot, so if you know Java, don't worry too much about it, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to connect, like the configuration for the connection to the MariaDB database that we just deployed with Docker. So for that, I'm going to go, actually, in Visual Studio Code, and happen to have it here. So to have these application-test.properties, and as you can see, I'm using R2DBC, but it's exactly the same with JDBC. This is the only change here. This is what's called a connection string. So R2DBC or JDBC. There, as you can see, after this, everything is the same. All right, it's exactly the same. So what we say is MariaDB, and we use this mode, sequential. That means that the driver is going to try to connect to this, or actually to the first endpoint that's up and running, right? And they are separated by a comma. And this is like localhost. Remember the number 4? Well, that's MaxScale. The first one, the second one, and the third one. This is the name of the database, and then we have this variable here, which is transaction reply equals true. This is so that if a transaction fails, for example, if this MaxScale goes down, it's going to try it on automatically on the next one, so we don't need to implement that at the application level. There's some configuration there for the number of transactions that are buffered by default. I believe it's 64, but don't believe me, check the documentation. I'm just showing you this so that maybe you feel tempted to go and check the documentation and see what else is available for configuring the connection. Like I said, it's the same with JDBC. If you are not using a reactive stack, you can do it just like this. In fact, I'm using both in this application, one for database migrations, it's called, right? When you change the database, you want this to happen automatically when you deploy the application. Well, there is a tool for that called Liquibase. There are others. This just happens to be my favorite for Java. And if you're using Python or Node.js or C++, things are a bit different, but the concept is the same. You need to look for the documentation and find the sequential mode and how to configure the multiple nodes or endpoints where MaxScale instances are running. Okay, this is the application. Let's get back to the terminal. So I can run these with Java. I actually have it here now because I'm using a profile, a test profile. I have to specify this here. If you don't specify here, just change the application.properties file and you're good to go. Let's start that application. Nice, it started and it's running port 8080. That doesn't matter. What matters is that, let me actually divide this here. We need a front end as well. So again, I happen to have a Svelte front end. Svelte is a Java framework, a JavaScript framework that I like for building front ends. Oh, and here we know let me actually show you that. Let's do one level. So we have basically a JavaScript application with Svelte, and I have configured this application to connect to this backend. Okay, we'll run these with npm run. Let's run it on development mode, and there we have our front end, which is what we are interested in. I'm going to use these. I just don't want to leave VS Code, so I have a couple of what is it called, extensions here for example, browsing an endpoint. It's like, I don't know if it's an iframe or how it is implemented, but it's pretty cool because I don't have to leave VS Code and I get the online store simulator that I was talking about that we just started, right? The Java backend and the Svelte front end. Now it has a bunch of things here. For example, you can, you see here, we're going to have orders. We don't have any right now. We're going to have products. We don't have any. That's where it's showing like an error. And we're going to measure disappointed visitors and missed opportunities. There are some settings here, like how many product visits per minute. This is like reads. And let me actually zoom out a little bit because this is a bit strange. You have orders per minute, that's like right. So this is gonna measure like after, for example, 5 seconds, if this doesn't work, then it's gonna be a disappointed visitor, or if it's actually ordering, so it's writing, then it's gonna be a missed opportunity. That's the case effect. There are some graphs here. We're not interested that much in that. Let's create some products, 5,000 products, and you can see they are being created, done. And now we can start this thing. But let me, for example, let's use 600 product visits per minute, and let's use 60 orders per minute, so that we have 1 per second and 10 per second. We should see that this starts to count, and the graphs are there, and yeah, that's pretty good. Now, let me open another browser, but I need to actually use another extension, and we're going to go to the MaxScale GUI, which I think this is going to use the Nginx. That's the reason I was using that, right? So I don't need to go here and change in case we want to, which we will, stop one of those nodes. Okay, let me maybe optimize for this view, which is more interesting. Let's keep it like that, very nice and clean. And also we have our terminals here, backend and front end. Now I'm gonna need another one. So let's do this to actually start, messing around with things here, like pulling a cable and see if we can break it, which hopefully we won't be able to break it. So here's the idea. I want you to, before we start doing that. So this application is, the web application is what you see here. So you're also requesting tons of, transactions to the database. And it's constantly writing and reading, right? And everything seems to be working all right. No errors, nothing on the logs. So what happens first if we pull the cable on the primary server, which is MariaDB 1, master is like primary. So let's try that. Docker stop MariaDB 1. So I want you to focus on this part here. Let me check that it's refreshing kind of quickly, 5 seconds. So this is gonna take 5 seconds to show what's happening in the backend. But I want you to focus on this, right? This part here. In fact, all this, there's some pop-up there. It's actually very useful. It's just it's getting on the way for this demonstration, but it's very useful because it gives you important information on the replication status. And also this part, this should continue to work. We should not have disappointed visitors and no missed opportunities in theory. Let's see what happens. All right, so we just stopped MariaDB 1, which was you see this, the primary. Now MaxScale just picked MariaDB 2 as a new master and check the log, no errors at all. Also, no disappointed visitors, no missed opportunities. So everything continued to work, even though we lost the primary server. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, what happens if we start MariaDB 1? Docker start MariaDB 1. Let's look at this part, this row. At some point, it's going to be up and running. So now this is configured as a replica. Everything automatically as usual. And also, this continued to work. Now the reads are being load balanced between right now this node and this node. Okay, that's pretty cool. And the writes are happening here. This automatically. I didn't code anything to do that at the application level. Okay, pretty good. So that can fail. Any single node can fail. I mean, database node. And our application doesn't even know in the logs. It's just everything continues to work, which is what we want, right? Now, we have also MaxScale, right? Remember I showed you the connection with JDBC and R2DBC? Well, right now we are probably connected to, let me show you the containers. We are probably connected to MaxScale 1, right? Which is the one in the list that's up and running, the first in the list that we configured. So what happened if we kind of kill that one? MaxScale 1. Stop MaxScale 1. Well, let's see. Nothing happens. Can we even stop MaxScale 2? Everything continues to work. Obviously, if I stop MaxScale 3, we're going to have a problem, right? There is no node available. But that's the idea, that something could fail and you still have these other nodes ready. Now, at some point, they are going to be up and ready, and everything continues to work as before. So, for example, we can docker start MariaDB MaxScale 1. And maybe now we can stop the third one, which was the only available MaxScale server, right, or proxy. So as long as there is one running, everything continues to work. No disappointed visitors, no missed opportunities. There are no exceptions in our application. I promise I didn't do anything at the application level, really. Nothing at all to handle this kind of error, to retry transactions. None of that. So the JDBC driver and the R2DBC drivers, they took care of retrying the transactions when one of the MaxScale nodes was not available. These, I have no idea where is that. It's probably related to Nginx taking over all the other MaxScale instances. But that shouldn't be a problem, really. Like I said, the Nginx part is just for the demo, so I don't have to come here and go to another URL. Okay, this is the important part. The application continues to work perfectly, and so that's on the application level. Then MaxScale also takes care of the backend of these nodes. So if the database servers they fail, there's a network issue or something on them, MaxScale takes care of that. So that's pretty cool. No errors, no disappointed visitors, no missed opportunities. That's what I wanted to show you. There are tons of videos on MaxScale in the YouTube channel, so I invite you to check some of those. There's one by my colleague Catherine that's so cool. She shows a more real-life environment in Amazon Web Services, I believe, with multiple, I don't know if regions, but availability zones at least. Go check that out. MaxScale has a whole lot of features, and I have a crash course on database proxies. You might want to check that one as well. So that's what I want to show you. I hope you download all this stuff, try it on your machine, connect your own application, try maybe some load testing on it while you're running MaxScale and these MariaDB deployment with Docker on your machine and see what happens. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.